Today, 7 October 2023, we are here at Ga-Matlala village in Limpopo for the funeral proceedings of Warrant Officer Class 1, Mokwapa Lucas Mojela. Warrant Officer Mojela was one of 3 submariners that tragically lost their lives on 20 September 2023 when high waves swept them off the submarine SAS Mantatisi. The South African Navy mourns this tragic loss and bids farewell to the sailor that was Warrant Officer Mojela.
This is the third speech I've had to write regarding my father's death. In all three speeches, I started with the phrase, "My heart broke on that Wednesday night." But this time, I'll start with the phrase, "On that Wednesday night, my father entered heaven." This speech is different because this speech is goodbye. Goodbye to my first best friend, my twin, my father, and my biggest bully. In my head, my father is a man that no one deserved. He was too kind, too patient, too loving, and too much of a pranker. And it's safe to say no one deserved to be a victim of my father's pranks. I remember even today, even recently, my father would say goodnight to me, but instead of leaving the room, he'd stay inside the room and close the door and switch off the lights. And I would think that he's gone, and until I hear some movement, and then I think I'm going crazy, and can't it's just him in the room. The house will never be the same. Church will never be the same. Parliament will never be the same. But I know you're with God, smiling down at us. With your beautiful smile. I'll say this for the first time and the last time. My father's smile was not that bad. I've mentioned my mom in all of my speeches, and I'll mention her yet again. I'll never stop reminding people of how strong in faith she is, how beautiful she is, and how my mother is indeed that girl. Papa, you said you were losing weight, but yesterday or last night I saw them struggle with the casket. So you have some explaining to do. We as a young generation of Mojelas promise to make you proud. As we know how much faith you had in us and how much hope you had in us that we will have better futures. I love you forever and ever, Papa. You'll always be my first best friend. Goodbye, Papa.
Warrant Officer Mojela's CV will be read in detail later in the program, but allow me to explain some of the highlights. He joined the submarine squadron in 2005 as a qualified weapon electrical rating. The Navy immediately saw how good he was in his job and selected to send him to Germany to undergo the first submarine course called General Submarine Knowledge. Even here, he excelled and was selected to sail with the first submarine, South African ship, Mantatisi, from Germany to South Africa. However, some of you may recall that in 2008, even before the load shedding we experience now, there was an urgent request from ESCOM that the SA Navy should help to fetch a large rotor for the Quebec nuclear power station in France. Warrant Officer Mojela was again selected to help with this, and thus he sailed with South African ship Drakensberg back to South Africa. When the third submarine, SAS Queen Mojaji, was to be sailed from Germany to South Africa 1 year later, Warrant Officer Mojela got his opportunity to sail with her as an operations room watchkeeper. The operation room is the brain of the submarine, where the commanders are given to steer the submarine and to detect any submarines or ships sailing on the surface. Mokwapa worked here in the brain of the submarine. 3 years later, in 2010, Mokwapa sailed to South America on the South African ship Ga-Matlala. Now he was the assistant operations room supervisor, as well as the head of the weapons sections on board. As you can see, he really excelled in his job and was given more and more responsibility. The Navy valued Mokwapa very much. Later on in 2014, he will become the operations room supervisor. He was the first African in the history of the South African Navy submarine squadron to be an operations room supervisor.